Good morning, grade 7s, and welcome back to WorksheetCloud and to your lesson for today. I just want to remind you to send any emails that you have to grade7@worksheetcloud.com and specifically about this lesson. Now, this is part 2 of film study, so let's jump into what we are looking at today. So we are going to have a word for the day, and then we looked at last week's sound effects. Today we're going to look at visual effects like your camera angles and shots, and also add a little bit about framing, composition, lighting, focus, and color. So let's jump right in. So our word for today is chock-a-block, which means extremely full, crowded, jammed. That's how we use it as an adjective. And then as an adverb, the books were piled chock-a-block. So how they were piled, chock-a-block. And the origin is, it comes from a nautical term, so to do with the sea. So tackle that's drawn close together, sort of mangled and on top of one another, is chock-a-block. So try and use that word today to just explain how crowded or jammed something is. Perhaps it could be your cupboards are chock-a-block with toilet rolls. I know there's been some talk about people buying toilet rolls in bulk during this lockdown. I don't know what it is that maybe your family have bought in huge amounts, but whatever it is your cupboard chock-a-block with that? Maybe it's clothes that you don't wear anymore, or you've got a cupboard full of shoes that are sort of jammed and crowded or like on top of each other. What is it, and how could you use the word chock-a-block today? So think about it and add to your vocabulary. So then if we look at just a recap of last week, we said that you need to go beyond passive entertainment. So just sitting and watching the film, you need to be active in your study and go a little bit deeper. So go in depth into what you are looking at, because there's so much more to see than what you actually see. So we're looking at visual effects today, and I'm looking specifically at those 6 that we spoke about in the beginning as at our lesson overview. So we're looking at framing, and framing is really, if you think about a photo frame, so if I stopped the film at that particular spot, for example, like on Shrek, that's a frame. So a film is a series of frames that we have joined together, and if you freeze it or pause it, it looks like a photograph, and that's a frame. So I've put this here just to show you, but that would be a frame that we've frozen during watching the movie Shrek. So that's quite easy. Then we look at visual effects, which are awesome. And the director carefully positions or composes the setting and the characters. And that's called composition, how he puts it together. So it has a focal point, and you need to take note of how the characters are positioned from each other, because it shows the kind of relationship or the interaction or the kind of feeling or tone or mood that's trying to be conveyed. So if you look here, we've got Shrek. Everybody's running away from him. So do you see the composition there? He's obviously an ogre. People don't want to be around him. He's not somebody that you want to be associated with. So he's in the focal point or the main part of that shot, but everybody else is withdrawing. And then this one, you've got Shrek with Donkey and Puss in Boots and sort of holding him up like that. The focus is still Shrek, but obviously he's not quite sure about this little kitty. Right, and then we take a look at another visual effect, which is lighting. And lighting obviously enhances a scene, but it enhances the effect that it has on you. So if the light's coming from the top, from above, it portrays the character in a positive light, even if it's coming from this direction. So it doesn't have to be right on top. If it's coming from behind or underneath, so these two, from behind it would create a silhouette, or from underneath, it does put your character in a bit of a negative light. So it gives a negative impression. And obviously light can be natural, so just during the daytime, or they have to create artificial light using different lights and filters. Obviously bright lights generally tell you that it's happy and it's sunny, but dim lights can indicate sort of nighttime sadness, sort of a sad, somber mood. Right, the next one we look at is focus, and that's obviously when the picture either has a soft or a sharp line. So when they come into focus and you see every single part, that shows you reality. So you'll see the wrinkles, or you'll see the tears, the actual tears. And then soft, it creates sort of a romantic, peaceful atmosphere. Sometimes it's slightly blurred. And then freeze is when they sort of just hold the camera at a certain point. It helps you focus. They want you to stop for a minute and focus on that particular scene or what's happening there. And then we look at color, and this is one of my favorite parts. So obviously color has a certain way of indicating different things. So red generally, and obviously this is a generalization, but most of the time it's to do with intensity, with energy, with strength, danger. It can be associated with food, also perhaps love. If we look at blue, it's sort of indicating trust, security, corporate as in business-like, peaceful, think of the sea, faithful, wisdom. We look at yellow, like we said, it's a bright light is normally sunny, warm. So yellow normally is optimistic, cheerful, energetic also, and can also be associated with food. Black, often we think of powerful or formal. Sometimes you wear a black suit to a wedding. It can be sophisticated, so it indicates, normally if you're going to a very fancy do, a lot of the times a black dress or a black suit is what's worn. Green, think of wealth, sort of nature, that how lush it is, freshness. It's an easy color on the eye to process, so it's not too sharp like your red. White, it's quite clean, it's positive. It's associated with the medical profession. So if you think of Grey's Anatomy, lots of white, the hospitals, the people in their blue, which is that sort of peaceful kind of light blue color that they wear, their scrubs, or the green. And then orange, we're looking at hot, aggressive, success. It's for some reason associated with younger generations. So hot and aggressive, I think, if you think of the sun or fire with the orange flames. And then purple has been for a long time associated with royalty. If you look back in olden times or in the Bible times, purple was the color of royalty. And then also luxury, it can be calming, but it can also be mysterious. You're not quite sure. So how does this work if we look in practice? So the use of color in these two films, so obviously this is the old Superman, and this is our modern day Superman that's been filmed today. And you just see the difference in terms of color. So Superman here is sort of, for me, obviously the blue is, he's powerful, he's warm and friendly, the colors are bright, whereas this side looks a little bit more somber to me. So the colors are dark and dull, not as bright as the second one. So for me, when I'm looking at it, this one gives me a more dangerous, eerie feeling, where this one is like a positive kind of feeling. I hope you can see that. And let's look at one or two other little pictures. There's, obviously she's sad, there's a red light that they're using. This as well, the orange, green with army and war. I think sometimes they give it to us because it's easier to watch that. As hard as it is, it can sometimes give you a little bit of an easier feeling in which to take in the devastation of war. And then I don't know if you recognize this photo from the Truman Show, sort of that peaceful calmness. He's finally come to finding the end of this world that he's been locked in. And so the use of the blue and the white. Right, so then we come to our camera shots. And a camera shot refers to the amount of subject matter or object, the amount of the object or subject matter that's included in a single frame. So the first one we look at is the extreme close-up. That's when we zoom right in, as you can see with the picture of Shrek. Shows a lot of detail. So sometimes it'll just show an eye or an ear or the nose or mouth. In this situation, it's showing both his eyes. Often shows quite a bit of emotion. You can see sort of the worried lines here, the worry in his eyes. And then you've got your close-up, which is also close. It does show a lot of detail in the face, but most of the face, and often little or no background. So obviously the first one is quite zoomed in, and then the second one a little bit less. Then we look at your medium shot. So it's taken sort of from the waist up at a middle distance, and so it shows more than a close-up. It shows the figures or objects in relation to one another in a scene, and so it's called a 1, 2, or 3 shot, depends how many figures. This is a 1 shot, and it obviously gives us quite a bit of background from the waist up where she is. And obviously that's Katniss from the Hunger Games. Then we take a look at your extreme long shots and your long shots. So your extreme long shot, these are your establishing shots, so they set the scene. You get to see quite a bit of detail of where the subject is, but very little about the subject. So for instance, in this The Hobbit, we're not quite sure who that subject is. Perhaps if you've watched the movie you will know, and but quite a bit of detail about where he is. And it's the furthest that the camera can be from the subject. And then your long shot, so also it gets the whole of the subject in the scene, but with quite a bit of background, so you can at least see where he is, but it's closer than this extreme long shot. And then we've got these two. We've got the wide shot. This shows the characters in full, but it does create a sense of space, so you can see where your character is. And then I love this one, over the shoulder. It's taken over the shoulder of a character, and almost like it gives you sort of like this insight into a scene. So you're not really supposed to be there, but you're getting a bit of the detail, and you almost feel like you really are there, looking over the scene over the shoulder of somebody in the scene. So let's just recap quickly again before we take a look at some that you're going to try to identify. So the extreme close-up, obviously the detail of a lot on a face or an object. And then the close-up is the whole of the face. You can still see expression and obviously very little background. Then we've got the medium shot, so taken from the middle distance. It's from the waist up. You get the person or the object in the scene with a whole lot of background, and obviously depends how many are in there. There's the 3, 2, or 1 shot, depending on the characters that are in the scene. And then you've got your extreme long shot, so it gives you the setting of the scene. There's quite a bit of the scene and very small detail of the subject. And then the long shot is taken from a distance as well. It does set the scene, so it can also be an establishing shot, and the subject is completely in the picture, but also with quite a bit of background. Wide shot, you've got the characters in a scene. It gives you a sense of space where the character is, and then over the shoulder, sort of you feel like you sort of looking into a scene that you're not meant to be a part of. So let's take a look at these. I want you to see if you can identify them. So pause the video at this stage, go look at each one of them, write what they are, and then we'll come back and go through it together. Okay, so let's take a look. We've got, this is obviously your extreme long shot, so you've got quite a bit of the scene where it's taking place, and obviously your subjects are quite small. You've then got your medium shot, so that is from the waist up. You've got this wide scene, it sort of gives you a feeling of space where they're at, but it's also a bit of over the shoulder of one of the band members, and so it gives you a feeling like you can actually see what they're seeing. This one is your a close-up. It's not a zoom. You can see the whole of his face with a bit of background. You can see the details on his the face, the features, sort of the pull of the one eye. There's over the shoulder. You've sort of been privy to the scene, seeing what she's seeing. There's your close-up. You can see the whole face with a little bit of background, and then obviously your extreme close-up with just the detail of one eye and obviously the fur. Right, so let's move on now to camera angles. And in this one, we're talking about the way that the camera shoots the shot is going to help you identify or perceive a character in a certain way. And that's a clever technique in film. So the first one is eye level, and that's just your basic shot. So it's as if you right in front of the character looking at her. It's just reality. It's a normal conversational kind of shot. The low angle one, I think it makes sense, taken from a low angle looking up, so you make the characters look quite threatening and dangerous, or just larger than life, so they're sort of bigger than what is looking up at them. And then the last one that I'm going to look at is the high shot. It's taken from the above looking down, so it makes the figure or object seem small and vulnerable, or even in danger. So take a look here. We've got this man who's surrounded by police, so you sort of feel like you need to help him or intervene in some way. He's looking quite desperate. And then obviously this one as well, where he's about to lose the ring. You sort of feel his pain and wonder if he's going to get it or not. I just realized I had to plug in my device. I'm not sure if you saw that. So also just a good reminder to plug in your devices and make sure they're charged and ready. Okay, let's take a look. So take a look at these different pictures and think about the camera angles. Is it at conversational level? Is it taken from high up, making the object or subject look vulnerable? Or is it taken from a low angle and making them look powerful or menacing? So pause the camera, the video at this stage, and then we'll come back and go through it together. Okay, hope you're ready. So this one is your conversational one. If you were standing there, you'd all be at eye level. It just shows reality. They're obviously having a conversation. This one is taken from a low angle looking up. The buildings are quite big. She's also the focal point. This one as well is taken from a low angle. So as if you were one of the crowd, in other words, the animals there, looking at this majestic scene about a new cub, the future king, Simba, gives sort of quite a regal or seriousness to the scene that you're partaking in this amazing new birth. This one is your conversational one, so it's just taken there at your straight shot. This one is taken from a low shot looking up, how tall the trees are, taken as if from the bottom of a runner. Yeah, quite a bit of a focus there. And then we've got, I love this last one to end off with. It's the one with Puss in Boots. So it's taken from a high angle and looking down, making him seem very vulnerable and needy, and you almost feel sorry for him. So some lovely techniques that they use to try and appeal to how you're feeling towards a character or scenes and characters within a scene. So that is the end of our lesson. I've got a lovely activity for you to start creating some of your own shots and angles. You will need a device, whether it's a phone or your iPad, or perhaps mom or dad's. Just check with them. And if you have any questions, remember to email me at grade7@worksheetcloud.com about today's lesson. And so we've come to the end, guys. I do hope that you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you same time, same place. Bye, guys.